Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here because we are tackling a subject that, let's be honest, almost all of us have wrestled with at some point in our lives. Today, we're diving deep into the reality of sleeplessness, and much more importantly, how to actually reclaim your rest. We're going to leverage some of the latest research to break down exactly what happens in our brains and bodies when sleep just totally evades us. And by the end of this, we'll map out a solid, science-backed path to fixing it.
So let me ask you something. Are you struggling to sleep right now? Like, have you ever found yourself just staring up at the ceiling at 3 a.m.? You know that feeling. You feel completely isolated in the quiet of the night. Your mind is racing a million miles an hour, while the rest of the world just seems to be resting peacefully. It is incredibly frustrating. It's exhausting. But as we're about to see, you are definitely not alone in this.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. 1. Medical definition. 2. Acute versus chronic. 3. Primary causes. 4. Circadian impact. 5. Science-backed cures. And 6. Consulting a specialist. Let's get into it.
Take a look at this number, roughly 20%. That means across populations in North America, Europe, and Australia, about 1 in 5 people experience this intense struggle with sleeplessness. 1 in 5. It's a massive, widespread issue. So if you can't sleep, it's absolutely not a personal failure. It is a highly documented, pervasive condition that significantly impacts our daytime energy, our mood, and our ability to concentrate.
Section 1, medical definition.
You know, we hear the word insomnia thrown around casually all the time, right? But the medical community, specifically the DSM-5, actually gives it very specific criteria. It involves a predominant dissatisfaction with sleep quantity or quality. And this usually shows up in 3 main ways. Difficulty initiating sleep when you first get into bed, difficulty maintaining sleep by waking up constantly throughout the night, or experiencing early morning awakenings, where you wake up, say, 30 minutes earlier than you wanted to, and you just cannot get back to sleep. And here's the kicker. This happens even when you have adequate time and a perfect opportunity to rest.
Section 2, types of insomnia, acute versus chronic.
So we've all been there, but not all sleeplessness is exactly the same. We generally divide the condition into acute and chronic insomnia. Acute insomnia is short-term, lasting less than a month. It's usually tied to stress. Think about a looming deadline at work. Your body activates its fight-or-flight response, keeping you totally wired and alert. Chronic insomnia, on the other hand, lasts for longer than a month. What happens here is a phenomenon called conditioned wakefulness. When you constantly engage in behaviors that disrupt sleep, like tossing and turning for hours on end, your brain actually learns to associate your bed with being awake and stressed, rather than with resting. It's like a bad habit your brain formed.
Now, beyond acute and chronic, there are a few other really fascinating classifications. Onset and maintenance insomnia refer to trouble either starting or staying asleep. But look at that third point, paradoxical insomnia. This is also known as sleep state misperception. It's wild. Individuals with this condition truly believe they are sleeping terribly, but objective medical sleep studies show they are actually sleeping much, much more than they perceive. Finally, we have environmental disruptors, like jet lag and shift work insomnia, which literally just throw our internal clocks completely out of sync.
Section 3. Primary causes, stress, anxiety, and blue light.
Let's talk about the hidden culprits actively hijacking our rest. Our common saboteurs are both mental and physical. Mentally, we're looking at psychological stress and cognitive hyperarousal. Cognitive hyperarousal is essentially when excessive worry about not being able to sleep creates a nasty cycle of anxiety that further ruins your sleep. On the physical side, things like extreme room temperatures disrupt our body's natural thermoregulation, which wakes us up. And then there is suboptimal artificial lighting, especially artificial light at night. This stuff wreaks absolute havoc on our biology. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the pure biological mechanism of how light keeps us awake. It's fascinating. When you were exposed to blue light, like from your smartphone or tablet, very specific cells in your eye called iPRGCs detect that light. They send a direct signal straight to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, which is basically the master clock in your brain. This triggers a negative feedback loop to the pineal gland, explicitly blocking the secretion of melatonin, which is the absolute crucial hormone you need to fall asleep. Simultaneously, it activates alertness pathways in the brain. So by scrolling in bed, you are literally chemically tricking your brain into thinking it's the middle of the day.
Section 4, circadian impact.
This diagram perfectly maps out exactly how that biological trickery wrecks our entire 24-hour cycle. Notice the inner circle here, which represents normal melatonin concentration.
Usually, melatonin secretion starts revving up around 9 p.m., setting you up for deep sleep by 2 a.m. But look at the outer circle. This shows what happens when we introduce excessive evening blue light. The light completely suppresses that melatonin release, drastically pushing back the onset of sleep and entirely disrupting the natural rhythm of your night.
And to put a concrete number on that disruption, just consider this staggering finding from a 2021 study on university students. Just 2 hours of evening light exposure, which, let's be real, is the amount of time most people easily spend scrolling or watching shows in bed, caused an average 1.1 hour delay in their circadian phase. That is over an hour of lost sleep simply from screen time. Over an hour.
Section 5. Science-backed cures.
Okay, enough of the bad news. Let's transition into a highly practical, scientifically validated action plan to reclaim our sleep. First up is the recognized first-line treatment for chronic insomnia, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBT-I. It's an absolute game changer. It involves identifying negative thoughts about sleep, practicing stimulus control, utilizing sleep restriction, and engaging in relaxation training. The really crucial takeaway here is that CBT-I actively retrains your brain. Instead of lying in bed feeling anxious and wired, you actually learn to reassociate your bedroom exclusively with sleep and relaxation. It breaks that cycle of conditioned wakefulness we talked about earlier.
Alongside therapy, we've got our sleep hygiene checklist. And I love this because it brilliantly illustrates how our daily behaviors directly impacts the biology we just learned about. Maintaining a consistent schedule anchors your circadian rhythm. Dimming the lights in the evening and avoiding those electronic devices before bed, well, that directly allows those iPRGCs in your eyes to signal the release of melatonin. Keeping the bedroom cool supports your body's natural temperature drop. And limiting stimulants like caffeine and alcohol prevents unnecessary chemical disruptions in your brain. It's all connected.
Section 6. Consulting a specialist. Now, we have to acknowledge that sometimes improving your sleep hygiene simply isn't enough. If you are hitting this specific threshold, meaning you're experiencing sleep difficulties at least 3 nights a week for 3 or more months, even when you have the time and opportunity to sleep, it is absolutely time to consult a specialist. That is the exact DSM-5 criteria for chronic insomnia. At this point, trying to muscle through it alone just isn't about cut it. Medical professionals can guide you toward treatments like targeted CBT-I or appropriately prescribed medications with favorable safety profiles like 𝗬𝗿𝗀𝗻𝗃 or 𝗧𝗶𝒎𝒏𝗀𝗀. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, totally vital question. What is the one sleep habit you are going to change tonight? Will you dim the lights an hour earlier? Will you finally banish that smartphone from your nightstand to protect your melatonin? Knowledge is only power when you actually apply it, right? Choose one step tonight, take control of your environment, and start reclaiming your rest. Thank you so much for learning with me today.